Have you noticed how, somewhere between 30 and 40, the noise in your head grows louder, but your voice feels quieter? You wake up every morning with the same tasks, the same responsibilities, the same people around you, and yet something beneath all of it begins to ache. An unspoken awareness that your life has become full of movement, but empty of meaning. You still show up, you still get things done, but it no longer feels like you're living. It feels like you're maintaining. And that is the point where most men begin to lose the invisible war inside them, not because they are weak, but because they are asleep while thinking they're awake. The truth is that most men don't crumble suddenly. They decay quietly. They don't explode into crisis. They slowly erode beneath the weight of habits that feel harmless, but slowly hollow them out. Habits that sound responsible or productive, but in reality, drain your power, fragment your focus, and turn you into a ghost in your own life. So if you're a man in your 30s or 40s, functional, reliable, but secretly tired of being just fine, this message is for you. Because there are 5 things you must stop doing if you ever want to reclaim your strength, your clarity, and your sense of aliveness again. These aren't surface-level tips, they are psychological traps. Unconscious patterns that quietly consume your vitality. Let's start with the first one. 1. Stop performing strength and start living it. You've spent most of your adult life trying to appear strong. You know how to keep your composure at work, how to control your voice in conflict, how to look like you have it handled even when you're falling apart inside. You've learned that strength means never showing weakness. And yet that very performance has become the reason you feel so drained. Because strength, real strength, has nothing to do with control. Control is armor. It keeps you safe, but also keeps you disconnected from everything that could truly nourish you. The constant effort to appear solid turns into a slow suffocation. You can't breathe behind the mask. Most men don't realize that the masculine psyche wasn't built for constant concealment. Jung understood this as the danger of the persona, the mask you wear to be acceptable in the world. The longer you identify with that mask, the more distant you become from your authentic self. You might look like a leader, but feel like an actor. You might look composed, but inside you're numb. So stop performing strength. Stop pretending composure when what you need is connection. Start living strength instead. And living strength means allowing truth to move through you, even when it shakes the image you've built. It means saying, "I'm not okay," when you're not. It means facing your own vulnerability without collapsing into it. Because a man who denies his weakness becomes brittle, but a man who admits it becomes unbreakable. And that's exactly what we'll explore deeper in the next part. How the illusion of control slowly becomes the cage that traps you. 2. Stop trying to control everything you fear. You think control equals safety, but that's the oldest lie the ego tells. The more you try to control life, the more life resists you. The more you grip the wheel, the more your hands shake. The reason you're exhausted isn't that you're working too hard. It's that you're carrying the unbearable burden of trying to manage every possible outcome. Jung called this the tyranny of the conscious ego, the part of you that believes it must dominate chaos to feel secure. But what you call chaos is often just life's attempt to correct your imbalance. The world is not trying to punish you, it's trying to reveal where you're still afraid. Control is a defensive adaptation. It began when you were younger, when unpredictability meant pain, when disappointment felt dangerous, when love was conditional on doing everything right. That child learned that being in control equals survival. But that boy's strategy has now become the man's prison. When you stop trying to control everything, you start noticing what actually matters. You realize that true power doesn't come from managing every variable, but from being centered no matter how many variables there are. Power is not control, it's capacity. It's your ability to remain present when life refuses to follow your plan. So begin to notice where you're gripping hardest. In your work, your relationships, your future. Ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I let go just a little? You'll find the answer isn't about the situation. It's about trust. And if you can stay with that truth without rushing to fix it, something in you will begin to relax. Because control is a tension, but power is a posture. One exhausts you, the other restores you. Before we move on to the next part, I want to ask you something. When in your life have you realized that control was actually costing you peace? Maybe it was in a relationship, or at work, or in the pressure to meet expectations you never chose. Share your experience in the comments below. Not for validation, but for connection, because another man reading might realize he's not alone in that struggle. 3. Stop numbing what needs to be felt. Every man has his way of running. Some drown themselves in work, others in pleasure, others in endless distractions that fill the silence they fear. But numbing is just another form of self-abandonment. And every time you avoid your own emotions, you teach your psyche that it cannot rely on you to handle truth. You might believe you're escaping pain, but in reality, you're scattering your power. The emotions you avoid don't disappear, they accumulate. They build pressure in the unconscious until they erupt as anxiety, burnout, or emptiness. Jung described this as the return of the repressed. Everything you refuse to feel eventually finds another way to be felt. The real tragedy is that the very feelings you avoid, sadness, grief, anger, are also the gateways to your depth. They are not weaknesses. They are energy, unintegrated and misunderstood. The man who can sit with his pain without drowning in it becomes immovable because he no longer fears himself. So stop numbing. Stop reaching for the phone, the drink, the meaningless conversation every time your chest tightens with discomfort. Let yourself feel it instead. Sit down. Breathe. Say silently, I will not abandon myself right now. That's how you rebuild trust with your own soul. Not by fixing yourself, but by staying with yourself. When you numb, you silence the messenger. When you feel, you learn what the message was about, and that brings us to something deeper. If this journey eases something inside you, stay with us. Subscribe, and each step will bring a little more clarity. Thank you. The fourth trap, the most invisible one, the quiet lie that you have to do all of this alone. 4. Stop believing you have to do it alone. You've been told your whole life that being a man means being self-sufficient, that asking for help makes you weak, that admitting confusion makes you less of a leader. So you built your fortress of independence, and now you live in it, alone. The irony is that your isolation doesn't prove your strength. It confirms your wound, because somewhere in your story, connection became unsafe. Maybe you learned that your emotions were too much for others to handle. Maybe you were the one who had to hold it together when everyone else fell apart. So you built your identity around being the strong one. And you did it so well that now no one knows how to reach you. But the psyche was not designed for isolation. Jung understood that individuation, the process of becoming whole, doesn't mean cutting yourself off from others. It means developing the capacity to be authentic with others. Brotherhood is medicine. Witnessing is healing. When you sit with another man who sees your struggle and doesn't flinch, your nervous system learns safety again. You begin to realize that your pain is not proof of your weakness, but proof that you're human. So stop believing the myth that solitude equals strength. Solitude is necessary for clarity, yes, but connection is necessary for wholeness. Find one man you can be honest with. One man you can say, I don't know who I am right now. You'll be surprised how quickly that sentence begins to free you. In the next part, we'll look at the final trap, the one that keeps all of this in motion, the invisible current that drains your power even when you're doing everything right. 5. Stop ignoring the unconscious life running yours. You think you're making choices, but in truth, most of your life is being lived by what you haven't yet made conscious. You repeat patterns not because you want to, but because something in you is still unfinished, an old emotion still seeking closure, an unhealed wound still trying to rewrite the story. You keep attracting the same dynamics at work, the same conflicts in relationships, the same inner resistance to growth. And it's not because you're broken. It's because your unconscious is trying to bring these lessons back into awareness, hoping you'll finally face them instead of escaping them again. Jung called this fate. What you fail to make conscious will appear in your life as destiny. Until you bring awareness to what drives you, you'll keep mistaking repetition for reality. You'll call it bad luck or wrong timing, but it's just your psyche trying to complete a circuit. The first step is humility, realizing you are not fully in control. The second is curiosity, learning to ask, what is this trying to show me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Every pattern, every frustration, every loss carries a message. Power begins when you stop running from those messages and start decoding them. You cannot dominate your unconscious. You can only collaborate with it. You can only listen. That's the paradox of real strength. It's not about overpowering life, but aligning with the truth that's already unfolding through you. Closing reflections. If you're a man in your 30s or 40s, you don't need another motivational speech about discipline or hustle or power. What you need is presence. The ability to meet your own experience fully, without denial or disguise. Because everything you're chasing, respect, clarity, peace, already exists inside you, buried beneath these 5 habits that keep you scattered, defensive, and exhausted. Stop performing strength and start living it. Stop trying to control what you fear and start trusting what you feel. Stop numbing your emotions and start learning from them. Stop isolating behind your armor and start letting others see the man beneath it. Stop ignoring your unconscious and start collaborating with it. This is the real initiation into masculine maturity. Not the conquest of life, but the integration of the self. And remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's reliability. Not to never fall, but to know how to return to center when you do. That is the power that cannot be faked. So be that man, not perfectly, reliably. Begin. If you've stayed with me until now, it means you're searching for something deeper, maybe an answer you've carried since childhood. Don't stop here. Perhaps the next video holds the key you've been waiting for, the piece that helps you untangle another thread of your story.